Our next guest this morning is Kathy Green. Kathy is the vice chair of the Community Preservation Committee, and they have rather, their workload is amazing what they have to do, but they really have a fun job. You give away money for good things.
We do.
So if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your committee, how you go through the process of determining,
Sure.
and then you can go through what you have approved.
Okay. I'm pleased to represent the Community Preservation Committee. We spend a lot of time vetting these articles out. This year we had quite a lot of applications. We had about 16 applications, of which about 14 were approved eventually. As you know, 3% of your property taxes are assessed, and they go towards the Community Preservation Act fund. So the money has already been assessed and collected. So it's not like we're asking for additional money. These are funds that are already there. We also do get some, not matching funds from the state, but some funding from the state. The amount has been decreasing every year, unfortunately. This year we had over, I think, close to $3.6 million in requests for the funding. One of the first articles that's always on the warrant is funding the land bank debt, which is just sort of a annual funding of debt service on an outstanding land bank.
Right.
Which we get the number every year from the finance director. I think this year it's, I don't know, in the 600,000 range or something like that. And it goes down every year. And I think in another 4 or 5 years we should be done with this.
No way altogether.
Right. Another standard article is reserving the future appropriation amounts for the Preservation Fund estimated annual revenues. And what this just says is that of those 3%, the property taxes that are collected every year, from that total, 10% is guaranteed to go into particular areas. 10% into open space, 10% into community housing, 10% into historic preservation, restoration, et cetera. And then the remainder goes into an undesignated fund balance. And that's what that particular article is.
So that's 48, I believe, and 49 is the one you spoke to before about the land bank.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so then moving forward.
Yep.
I don't know if mine are in exact same order as
No, it doesn't
yours.
matter.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we do have a warrant article that groups several of the articles together. This particular year, anything that was under 50,000 was grouped together for a total of 139,740. But I'm just going to take each of them, separately, briefly. The first one was the Albro House status assessment. So this is a building conditions assessment and evaluation. It includes a site visit and assessment of major building systems, including structural, plumbing, electrical, and the building envelope, review of records, site plans, inspect and evaluate the septic, and prioritize the recommendations. And this came from the planning office, and the total is $2,500. Second was the Mount Pleasant Cemetery gravestone preservation. This was for the repair and restoration of gravestones and monuments at Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Requested by the Cemetery Commission for a total of $49,900. Then there were the Pleasant Lake Avenue crossing lights. This was to install a motion sensor, solar-powered system which will alert motor vehicle traffic that a bicyclist or pedestrian is approaching at the intersection of Pleasant Lake Ave, which is Route 124, and the Cape Cod Rail Trail. And there's a total of 4 beacons that are needed in this site. And that was at the request of the Bikeways Committee for a total of $27,000. Next was the library preservation and digitization of the Harwich Oracle newspaper. So the Brooks Free Library was seeking funding to preserve and protect the historic issues of the Harwich Oracle newspaper, which was published between 1986 and 2007. All the originals will be stored in acid-free archival newspaper boxes, Microfilm will be created from the originals, and then a searchable digital product will be produced from the microfilm. And that was at the request of the reference area of the Brooks Free Library for a total of $10,340. Next was the contracting for records retention. This was a request for an implementation of a records management program with regard to the archival of the town hall records. And it includes records that are currently stored in the basement of the town hall building, of which, if anybody knows, is kind of an abysmal location to store records at this moment. That was at the request of the town clerk's office in the amount of $40,000. And I think those were those, okay, there's one additional one. The Community Development Partnership request. This application seeks funding to support year 2 of the Cape Housing Institute for July 2018 to June 2019. In June of 2017, this organization, I'll call it the CDP, launched a community-based strategy entitled the Cape Community Housing Partnership, in partnership with the Housing Assistance Corporation. And it's designed to build public support for affordable housing and equip low, moderate income residents, businesses, and community leaders and local elected and appointed officials with the knowledge and skills to support the creation of more year-round housing. This was at the request of this particular organization, the Community Development Partnership, in the amount of $10,000. So all those articles are grouped together in one, but I believe they can be all discussed separately at town meeting if anyone has any questions.
And that's Article 50.
Yeah.
Yep, great.
Next was the historic Brooks Free Library restoration. The Brooks Free Library seeks additional funding to accomplish much-needed work on the exterior of the Brooks Free Library. This includes historically appropriate repairs, chemical stripping of the exterior, and painting. And this was at the request of the Library Board of Trustees in the amount of $300,000.
Yep.
Next was the construction of an appropriate municipal public record storage facility in the Harwich Community Center basement. This proposal seeks to build out the community center basement such that existing and future public records for the town of Harwich may be stored for the appropriate amount of time and in conditions suitable to their long-term preservation. This was at the request of the community center and the town administrator. The total amount was $120,275.
And it's Article 52 for our listeners, yeah.
Okay. Next was a request from the Habitat for Humanity Community Housing. Habitat for Humanity of Cape Cod, Inc. is seeking support with the building of 6 new affordable homes in Harwich. The project is located at 93 and 97 Main Street, Route 28 in West Harwich. And it was at the request of the director of Habitat on Cape here, Vicki Goldsmith, in an amount of $300,000. So $50,000 per home.
Okay, Article 53, great, thank you.
Okay. Next was the Brooks Park Expansion Improvement Phase 5. Recreation and Youth Commission and Department are seeking funding for a new LED lighting system for Brooks Park to replace the antiquated and failing lighting system that's currently in place. Electric costs would decrease significantly, as would lighting glare. The system includes a 25-year warranty and very little maintenance is required. This is at the request of the director of the Recreation and Youth Commission in the total of $333,500.
Perfect, yep.
Next was the Judah Eldridge property acquisition. The Board of Selectmen are seeking funding for the acquisition and preservation of a 24.6 acre property on the east side of Hawks Nest Road for conservation and open space purposes. This property is adjacent to state conservation lands, and the preservation of it would not only preserve and increase natural habitat in the area, but would protect water quality as well. This was at the request of the Board of Selectmen and Town Administrator in the total of $369,000.
Yep.
Next was the purchase of conservation restriction for 15 acres at Cornelius Pond, which was sometimes referred to as Eldridge Pond. This will protect more than 1,000 feet of coastal plain pond shoreline, a rare habitat type protected diversity of habitats, protect groundwater that flows into the pond, protect 15 acres that is located within a zone of contribution to the town's public water supply wells, and create a walking loop off of Queen Anne Road where visitors can enjoy scenic views. This was at the request of the Real Estate and Open Space Committee and the Harwich Conservation Trust in the amount of $200,000.
Yep.
Next was the funding of the Affordable Housing Trust. The Board of Selectmen are seeking funding for the creation of the Harwich Affordable
That's hard.
Harwich Affordable Housing Trust to create and preserve affordable housing in the town of Harwich and to fund a part-time housing coordinator. This was at the request of the Planning and Town Administrator's Office for $500,000. And last but not least, Hinckley's Pond remediation and improvements. The Board of Selectmen are seeking funding to implement a portion of Phase 2 of the Town of Harwich's comprehensive wastewater management plan to remediate Hinckley's Pond using alum treatment and to make improvements to provide better public access to the pond, including the building of a stairway and a viewing platform, bike kiosk, and an ADA-compatible path. That's at the request of the Natural Resource Director and Town Administrator in the amount of $650,000.
Okay, so for our listeners, those are Articles 48 through 58 on your town warrant.
The Hinckley's Pond, whereabouts on, do we know whereabouts on Hinckley's Pond that's going to be located, the picnic tables, the bike kiosk?
Yeah, right where,
Yeah.
across from the little Pleasant Lake store there,
Oh, okay, okay.
right where the bike trail intersects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comes across, great.
All right,
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
thank you.